So this shit, I have to admit, your description of this violence as being cartoonish levels of violence is like really, it really hit me because yeah, that's exactly what's going on here, man.
Well, it's yeah, they're just going over the top. It's like they're doing whatever they can, whatever their imaginations can come up with, because this is their chance to really get everything out, get everybody really pissed off, and just galvanize. Well, they want to do away with the current model, the legacy system, quote unquote, of policing, so that they can replace it with something even worse. And that's
Yeah.
people constantly their imaginations are not such that they can imagine that there is something worse, because you see all these cartoonish acts of violence, these people getting their heads cracked on the pavement, these police horses running over people, whatever, and they don't realize that it could be worse, and
Mm.
it will be.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. When I look at it, I'm just I'm trying to figure out what's going on in the minds of a politician. Don't they understand that there's going to be a day of reckoning for all this, or like what? Because one of the things I'm trying to think of is that okay, so maybe they are convinced that the system, the voting system's just going to be rigged, and they have nothing to worry about. That could be the only thing that they're thinking about.
The voting system has been rigged for a very long time. I mean, if they're pretty comfortable with that. I mean, even a lot of these like Israeli election security companies, they even ran a simulation, I think last year, of, oh, this is what happens if our system is in place and there's widespread civil unrest, and then
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
this
yeah.
is this is what happens. Yeah, they ran all these simulations that are basically exactly what's happening now. And I
Yeah.
mean, the only problem is there are so many of these companies doing the same thing that you can't even remember them all.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, it's like I would think that if the people had any dignity, they every single politician would lose his job. There would be no incumbent reelection. I think what's happening is that the race is on. Can the ruling power structure scare the people so much and trick them so hard into being so afraid that they cling to their fucking incumbent, man? Because that could be the only thing I'm thinking of.
Well, even if they don't succeed in doing that, the image that's put forth will be that they have, and so all they need to do is convince the people that everybody else voted for the incumbent, and then it doesn't even matter if that person is personally frightened enough to vote for the incumbent, because the election results will be delivered such that, oh, everybody loves Cuomo. Cuomo's great, and even though nobody likes Cuomo, and
No,
the only people who like Cuomo are the bots and
the
the
bots.
Unity 200.
Yep.
So it's like, yeah, they don't actually need to get people's votes. All they need to do is project the image of getting people's votes.
Yeah. Well, one thing I just to get to the bots is a very good point is that when you look at when you one of the things that's notable is that when Cuomo and De Blasio, when Cuomo gets up and does his daily bullshit story, um, NBC used to scroll the comments in the chat section, which would have been on the right hand side of the screen. Okay, but then I was like, oh, good, because when you would look at the live chat, you would see all the people saying, "I hate your guts. You're a piece of shit. We don't trust you. You're lying. Stop lying. You work for Israel." Okay, then I said to myself, "There's no way they're going to publish that chat." And sure enough, they delete the chat. Right? Why delete the chat? If you have the chat, leave the fucking chat on. Right? Okay, so they delete the chat. Okay, um, but whenever you would see, and the same thing which is happening to me on Max's thing, Max's discussions that I have with Max at the Crow House, is that whenever you would see the comments that were say in favor of Cuomo, they would say it would always be the same characteristic, something about marrying him or something, and sometimes it would be the same exact words. And then when you look at the actual accounts that they're from, and I don't want to give away too many secrets because then the Israeli intelligence unit that's setting up these fake accounts will modify it. But for viewers, I urge viewers to go and look at these accounts that are the ones that are disrupting the forums and stuff. And sure, some of them are empty, but many of them they want to try to make it look like it's an active account. So what they do is they subscribe to a bunch of like a row of accounts along the top, and I've noticed a pattern where it's some of the same exact things that they subscribe to, and it's highly unlikely that that would occur. So, patterns.
Well, it's the same. Yeah, it's the same thing with Twitter. If you look at the Twitter accounts, like if you, I'll get these random attacks by these bots that they all say the same thing, and you go to their Twitter account, and they'll usually be like something about sports, or they'll post like a bunch of retweets about sports, and like maybe a few like really generic political retweets, like, oh yeah, Trump is bad. And so it'll be like a very low level, like the most generic, no personality, but it's like a cursory inspection. A person who's not really thinking will say, oh, well, there's some activity there. It can't just be a bot.
Well, that person won't even inspect. But yes, I know exactly. Whenever I see these Twitter accounts that are bullshit, and then all they are is retweets, there's nothing of their own. They don't have a thought, right? And a lot of them have just been formulated like last month, and then they're just full of already 1,000 retweets. So, sorry.
Yeah, either that, or they've been around for since 2012, and they don't have any content, and it's just like, right. Or they haven't tweeted since 2000. There's always something wrong with them, and it's pretty obvious that you can buy these mass accounts. There's these Hootsuite is a big one that like government agencies use to like mass tweet. They have these programs that let them operate multiple accounts at once. So there's so many tricks that they have, and obviously there's no one thing that like operates everything. But generally there's a few dead giveaways in there, and it's pretty easy to tell.
What is we're gonna have to talk about Hootsuite, because I'd like to educate myself more on the technology of deception, because honestly, not so much to use it, but just to inform people about this is what is going on. I mean, because the bottom line is that I had published stories 20 years ago about the NSA having the ability of one person to maintain like thousands of online sock puppets, and I'm sure the technology since then has gotten it's AI at this point, I think.
Yeah, I don't think that there even really has to be a human at the center of it. I mean, that Facebook, their whole bot universe thing that they want to do, testing out to see how to deceive people and how to con people. Oh, just to keep you safe. No, it's not to keep you safe. It's because they basically are creating a whole community of people to do something like fake an election, to say, oh, well, create a whole organic seeming conversation when there's actually no human participants at all, and say, well, see, we have, it's obvious that there's so many people that love Joe Biden or love Andrew Cuomo, and it's pretty clear.
And Mark Zuckerberg's not a piece of shit.
Oh, yes, he's a great guy. Yeah. Mark Zuckerberg is a wonderful person.
Well, Helen, let me ask you a question. One thing I've noticed about my Twitter account is that as I express my true self, like when I show glee at a cop, like getting burnt or something, or lit on fire or something, and I honestly, like, I don't see where the disconnect is with people. I mean, obviously, if the cops are going wanton violence, I mean, if they get lit on fire, and when I express happiness about that, I notice that I lose a lot of people. I mean, they just drop off. So, yeah. Are you noticing it?
I don't actually have a thing set up to follow, because those who unfollow me, you have to give your account information and stuff, and I don't feel comfortable doing that to these sites, so I haven't actually got anything set up. But I have gotten some people complaining when I like posted in joy about that cop car getting lit on fire in Brooklyn like last week, and it's just, yes, there are a few good apples, I'm sure, but the problem is that there's so few, and they all get kicked out, and they all end up getting, like, that guy Adrian Schoolcraft who tried to expose the thing in the NYPD ended up in a mental institution because the cops didn't like him. Serpico gets shot in the face. I mean, good apples don't last very long in the police department, so spare me the, like, oh, but there are good cops.
Bullshit.
Yeah, dude,
Bullshit.
Like 3 of them.
Yeah. No, and there's just, there's not enough of them to be statistically significant. But yeah, I mean, part of the thing is that, and then I'm getting a whole new change in customers, followers. So I'm losing, and I guess this has to do with just, I noticed that a lot of influential people, which just means that they have a lot of likes, that's what determines influence now. A lot of followers. I've noticed I've lost a few biggies, that just dropped off. I guess as the more credible and influential you are, the more you have to watch your language, watch your thoughts. And I never want to sort of moderate or sort of like suppress my real feelings. I fucking hate cops. I will hate these motherfuckers till the day I die. That's it. If I ever say something like, oh, but there are some good ones, please stop watching me, because I'm lying to you at that point. So it's just,
you've been pod people.
I've been paid. I've made some money or something.
That's possible. Yeah, people just social media, for one thing, is a total bastardization of human communication, and that's why I will, for one thing, always hate Mark Zuckerberg. He's one of the worst people on earth for what he did to human communication. It's just putting it through this like pasta extruder of censorship and like people holding back and forcing your emotions to go through these like little face things like, ooh, smiley, ooh, frowny. Okay, well, what if you have a more complex emotion than that? Oh, well, you can't hate anything. Hating things is wrong. And there's limiting the spectrum of human emotion. And of course you get outbursts like this outpouring of protest, which is completely genuine. And the problem is that they're just hijacking it and trying to use it for their own purposes. And so people just come out and say, oh, no, this is totally fake. And well, no, actually, it's real. They're channeling it into ways that do not damage their grip on the throat of humanity. Yeah. And we just need to channel it back towards their grip on the throat of humanity. Yeah. Should be a pretty simple matter, but the problem is we're fighting a large, very well-equipped force, and that's the difficult part.
Yeah, well, and I've noticed that Twitter is the best of them, obviously, because you could say, SH asterisk T. I mean, you can't say shit, but you can say it, but you're gonna get put between.
I've said shit, but I guess maybe my tweets get hidden. Yeah.
No, as soon as you say shit, it gets between. They have to click an extra button in order to see it. But if you put the asterisk, it doesn't get hidden. Of course, if you say motherfucker, it gets put between the click more and then could be offensive. That's 2 clicks you have to get to if you say motherfucker. Okay.
Yeah, and you might as well just not even be saying anything because no one's going to click twice.
That's exactly right. Well, I do, because I want to see all the juicy stuff, actually. I kind of, I always do. I always check to see, but like influential people don't. And, but the thing about it is that I'm stuck with this idea that I still just remember the past when you could just say whatever you want. That was what the whole point of the internet was, is just flip these people off. Say whatever you want. And those days are gone, and that's why we have to reinvent the thing. Obviously.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because they've hoarded everybody onto these platforms because people are lazy basically and didn't want to go to individual websites and things like that. And okay, so this is what you get. You get this like constant mental babysitting and this you can only talk about these things and only in this way, or else you're evil, bad, and wrong, and you're a racist, homophobe, bigot, whatever the term of the moment is. Even if you're not even talking about that thing that they say that you hate, it's like they just pull these words out of the air and they throw them on you, and then people ignore what you have to say.
Yeah. Now, we need to talk about what's going on with this defund the police thing. Okay. And I think what viewers need to know is that this defund the police is part of an overall narrative broadly under the category called communitarianism. And what that is the long and short of communitarianism is it's a new way to homogenize people's moral and religious viewpoints into, instead of people having separate moral independent moral judgment or whatever, it's going to be one universal set of morals. And that's really scary because this includes your this goes from sexual all the way to religious and everything in between. This is what they haven't planned. And you posted a great video of this woman. What's her name again?
Nikki Rapani.
Rapani. Of course, everybody should go to your Twitter to watch that video. I think I might have posted it as well, but We see, and this is like I think 20 years ago she did this, or at least 15 years ago, and we see the chilling echoes of the contact tracers there. Right? I mean,
Yep, and it's very much like the contact tracer is. Somebody responded to that tweet pointing out that there's this app called Neighbors that people use. This, not Neighbors. The other one, Nextdoor is the one. It goes with these Amazon Ring doorbells. There's an app that goes with it that people who are in the neighborhood can share information about suspicious characters they've seen in their neighborhood. And it's very, very scary because there's Nextdoor and Neighbors are the two apps I know of. There's another one called Citizen that I wrote an article for RT about a couple months ago. But all these apps that are basically like enabling these citizen Stasi, these busybodies, to have all of these powers they didn't have before. Now that they come equipped with technology, and obviously the East German Stasi would have like come in their pants if they had access to all of this technology that we have now. And the contact tracing is on top of that, and they're just basically enabling people's worst impulses as far as wanting to get into everybody else's business. Yeah. And so if you think, obviously we don't like the current model of policing. It's abusive, it's terrible, it's racist, it's oppressive, et cetera, but we need to be very careful that we do not replace it with something worse, because if you think that this is bad, imagine if every single person you meet is potentially a cop.
Sure. Well, it's the, I don't know what the right word would be, I guess the technologizing of busybodiness, essentially. It's like give a busybody like ultra AI technology to assist that busybody, and you've got yourself a fucking nightmare on your hands. And all of this, by the way, and it's a very important point to bring to people, is that whenever you see a social scientist coming out of academia, coming out of especially like Harvard, Yale, MIT, or any elite university, if it's social theory, it's not to help society. It's to reinforce the power of the Rothschilds banking dynasty and City of London and basically the Bank of International Settlements. Like, yes, other institutions will profit from it, the sort of subsidiary institutions, which is pretty much every institution in the West is a subsidiary of the Rothschilds, because ultimately that is like, because whenever you see a social theorist coming out of an elite university, that's not his ideas. That's the ideas of the foundation who paid him to say those ideas. So basically, academics are basically fucking pimps. They are hookers.
Yeah, basically. And if they don't go along with the narrative, they don't last very long at these institutions. They don't get the money. So you don't get into a Harvard professorship. You don't get a tenure track professorship because you're an independent thinker who has like radical ideas. You'll have fake radical ideas. It's very telling that you see in these gigantic protests that are going on, there are all these suddenly mass-produced masks that say defund the police, screen printed on the masks. Where did these all come from? Oh, there's a lot of money that went into that. You know how much it costs to make millions of these? Well, I don't know if there's millions of them, but hundreds of thousands of these masks. This is not something that grassroots activism is capable of doing. Well,
you find out they were printed 4 months ago.
Yeah, that would be a very large smoking gun. But one of the things I noticed that I liked about the protest that walked by my corner the other day was that all the signs were handmade. These were cardboard signs that people had made with markers themselves, and that's how you know that a protest is genuine if they're not these mass-produced signs. But these masks that all have the things screen printed on them, I'm sorry, that's a dead giveaway.
Well, I'm sure Soros will eventually pick up on that and say, we got to mix it up, guys. So let's have like that hand printing looking logo that we'll use, because honestly, they're not that stupid. And you'll literally see like people, because like I don't know if you've seen any of these like hidden cameras in these Antifa meetings and stuff, but it's a military structure. It's a military command structure. It's just, it's a billionaires club.
Basically. Yeah, definitely. And they find these disaffected people to give them credibility by like saying, oh, well, these people just came in off the streets, and these are just kids. But there's, I mean, at the center rather, there's always somebody who's giving the orders, who's coming directly from the ruling class. And that's you can tell because this whole lionization of the snitch. I've talked to you about this before, but there's this rapper who's suddenly the biggest thing in the music world. This Tekashi 6ix9ine. Now, normally, if you have a rapper who snitches, who's part of a gang, and then he snitches on the whole gang, that person has no credibility anymore ever. But suddenly, this person is everywhere, and his music is blaring out of every car that goes by that's playing a hip hop station. They're trying to make snitching acceptable and cool. This guy ratted out like 12 people that he was in a gang with, and because he was facing 47 to life in jail, and instead he got a year and a half and got out early for coronavirus, and so now he's the biggest thing in rap is this.
I'm a snitch, bitch.
Basically, yeah. The lyrics are about that quality. I mean, it's the rap world has fallen pretty far in terms of lyrical quality, but it's really bad because they're trying to make snitching being acceptable in like the young generation, and this is very much a coordinated effort on all levels. It's contact tracing, snitching, next door neighbors, apps. It's all to make this the program that is being imposed.
Well, now how do we like sort of make sure that, like, because I don't know what the numbers are in terms of how many people are angry enough to want to, really change the world, and if those people will keep their anger come next election time, and versus how many people in their suburban homes are terrified of getting looted and are willing to cling to the latest cop. What do you think the breakdown is of that?
Well, I mean, a lot of people don't have anything to loot anymore. Coronavirus kind of took care of that. Like, a lot of people lost their jobs, a lot of people lost their savings, a lot of people lost a lot of things. So I think that people, by habit, are afraid of being looted, afraid of being broken into. I think if they think about it, they might realize that, there's actually not that much that they can take from me that hasn't already been stolen from me by the ruling class. But that's not the way that people think about things. They're scared of their being, because that's just a fear that people have. For one thing, it's constantly being broadcast from all screens that they are looking at. So unfortunately, I think a lot of people are at their core, when they see these looting or these violence or these acts of property destruction, then deep inside they're concerned about that happening to them, and
right.
There are all these like juxtapositions of tweets where there's like a famous some sort of celebrity talking about burn it all down at first when there was all the violence in Minneapolis, and then there was like the tweet is that same person, hey, what are they doing in my neighborhood? Don't loot Rodeo Drive or whatever. It was like I don't know if that tweet juxtaposition was real, but that's the sentiment, is that they all want to cheer on the taking out the system until it comes into their backyard, and then it's not acceptable.
No. Well, I mean, I'm rethinking owning stuff, in terms of possess cars and things. Like, I actually want to just start wholesale getting rid of what I have, because I don't think it's going to be much use. And I remember in the beginning of this pandemic, I remember an analyst saying, well, if you have any cars, sell them. And I thought, I said, no, there's going to be another side to this. No. I don't think so.
No,
I don't think so, because
trying to just...
I'm looking at, I think what we're looking at is, we really are looking at the collapse of the old system. So like for example, the petrochemical paradigm, I do believe that is imploding. Right. So we're not going to have gas stations are going to go out of business. Cars will not be able to find, you're not going to be able, they're soon going to make laws that you cannot have a car anymore, basically.
Well, I think in Europe, some countries have already stopped selling gasoline-powered cars, or they're trying to phase them out or something. And I know that there's a lot of pushback against that, but it's also, I mean, the EU is not exactly an organization that they're very democratic. You can't really, once it's there, you can't really get rid of it.
Well, the problem with these computer-driven cars that the state manages, people like me, they'll just run them into a brick wall and say, "Oh, oops, yep. That was So I'll never get into a car that Israeli intelligence controls. Sorry, no."
Yeah, the idea of getting into a self-driving car is not really acceptable to me.
You
It's
do realize that the
not gonna
brains
work.
of those, you know that it's Israeli companies that control those, right? You, you
Israeli companies that have backdoors in every single chip that is in operation right now.
right.
You can't really get away from it.
But in particular though, they are the leaders in the driverless cars. Just so you know that. That's just, that's not, I'm not making that up. That's true though. So,
Well, I mean, they're trying to get all the technology over there. That's what Startup Nation Central is all about. And Paul Singer's bid to get every single technology company to put their headquarters in Israel, to make them boycott proof. Because, I mean, it's when you have billions and billions of dollars that are devoted just to making people not hate you, maybe you should look at your behavior and, like, I don't know. I mean, it would seem like it would be easier for Israel to stop, like, killing people and maybe stop, like, dominating,
hmm
just putting its boot on the human throat. It would be
yeah.
easier to do that than spending all this money to, like, punish people who call them out for their crimes.
Yeah. Well, all too often we'll see, and the bottom line is that most intellectuals, well, especially intellectuals who happen to be Jewish, would consider these sentiments to be anti-Semitic. So they're not, they think that we're being insensitive, and actually no, they're insensitive because ultimately. Every group has to be responsible, even though there's this claim that all this stuff that's being done in the name of the Jews has nothing whatsoever to do with Jews. And this is the main claim, so you'll say, this is why they'll attack you. They'll say, well, Israel has nothing to do with Jews. And yes, I largely agree with that. But just like I have nothing to do with a white male rapist, a patriarchal jerk off, I still have to suffer for that. And so, Jewish intellectuals need to step up to the plate and really turn the heat up on Israel and and they're not doing that. So
Yep.
it's
It's
very
it's very unfortunate because as an American I'm responsible, or at least have some sort of degree of responsibility. I have to answer for what my country is doing around the world.
Mhm.
And in the same way, Jewish people are they have to answer for, in a way, what Israel is doing, because Israel, for better or worse, and I would say for worse, has declared itself to speak for the Jews, and Jews need to step up and say Israel does not speak for me,
Yeah,
because they're not doing that, and it's a big problem.
no, but I do think one of the ways to we have to try to get everybody on the same page to speak more openly about this problem. And so it's very difficult, like, to talk about like Rothschild's banking dynasty, because nobody knows that. Nobody's ever heard of it. You ask American, honestly, even though there's been a lot of awareness about this, still the name Rothschild is unfamiliar to most Americans, and City of London is even more abstruse and arcane to most people. So that's why the tentacles of this, because it all goes back to the banking, the international bankers. And they say, oh, the international banking, that's a dog whistle for anti-Semitism. No, that's what it is. Okay. So you can chop off the tentacles. And right now, and because obviously the octopus needs tentacles in order to grab everybody around the neck. So what are the tentacles? Well, the tentacles are the Jews mostly, and it would be Israeli intelligence, 8200, Unit 8200, the Mossad, the sense of Jewish privilege, Jewish supremacism. Those are the principal tentacles, really, of and academics, Jewish academics, who ultimately are going to receive the money from these various think tanks and or foundations, which are all tentacles of these giant international banking systems, especially this one center, the City of London. I mean, so I'm talking about chopping off the tentacles, basically.
Yep, and people need to recognize that it's all connected, because you can't just talk about these things in isolation and not understand that there is the same people that are directing where the money goes are directing where the technological evolution goes and where the system goes that we're heading into. I mean, it's not a coincidence that this pandemic has led to certain agendas being ramped up in a large way, such as trying to get rid of cash, trying to get everything to happen over the internet. This idea of everything now has to pass through these big tech systems. Everything is being done over Facebook or Twitter or Zoom or well, now all of these other companies are muscling in on Zoom as they don't want the Chinese to get all the money. So like Facebook has its own Zoom and Google has its own Zoom and all these.
Oh, is it Zoom Chinese? Zoom
yeah.
Chinese? Okay.
Yeah, and then all of the things that the original controversy over Zoom was that it was sharing people's information with Facebook without telling them, and so now Facebook comes out with its own Zoom, and it's like, wait a second, wasn't the problem that everybody was getting their information shared with Facebook? Now we get to share it directly with Facebook. I don't think that's the solution that people want, but whatever.
Can you have like a Zoom sex party?
I'm sure they're doing that, and I'm sure it's depressing as all hell.
I know. Well, I don't know if you've seen all these like instructions that are coming out of, like, I guess, again, this whole Zionist infrastructure about now online sex, how good it is, and like when Britain outlawed sex, now it's against the law, right? And I'm saying, okay. If in 12 hours the pitchforks aren't in that guy who came up with that, then really we're toast, man. And that guy's still in his office, right? So
no, the British have just really, I mean, they make Americans look like we have a spine. Like not only that, not only are they not uprising against this stupid sex ban, but there was like a woman was stopped on the street. She had a T-shirt that said like "fuck Boris" on it. And the cops stopped her and like demanded that she zip up her jacket because the shirt was going to like offend somebody. And it's like, wait a second. No. So there's a zip code now for the world because but then they've been knocking on people's doors over mean tweets for years now, and nobody did anything about that. And trying to get people committed for posting things about vaccines being dangerous. And even if it's like solid science and it's the specific ingredients that, hey, well, it's scientifically proven that this ingredient causes this and it's in this vaccine, so therefore maybe we shouldn't be like, mainlining it. But no, can't do that. You're mentally deranged if you don't want it. So it's been a constant thing.
Yeah, honestly though, I mean the sex ban is taking it way too far. I mean, these motherfuckers really pushing it, okay? And I think it's I don't know who thinks that they could come up with that shit. Like, because I have a feeling. And if you look at the guy, what's this guy's name again? The health minister.
Matt Hancock.
That guy is such a low caliber individual, like a low caliber, low thinking, like not a smart guy, not very articulate. He's not a leader. He's just a low end, low. Yet he has the power to actually say something like that, and he's still in that office. What the fuck is there? They should have burned that. Well, honestly, if they had burned that to the ground, that would have been a good thing. I can't, in this new world, in the days of the old internet, you should say, burn that fucker to the ground, kill that fucker. But that's a violation now. You can't say that. So I'm not saying that.
That's why I always say, rip out their throats, metaphorically, of course.
It's insane that, and then it's like coordinated with a bunch of fucking. There was this douchebag woman, total douchebag. I don't know if I sent you the video, and she's getting up there and saying, and she's gonna give you the new instructions on online sex. It's a good idea. Make yourself comfortable. You can have clothes on or clothes off, and you could play with yourself, and you could light a candle. I'm thinking, what a fucking douchebag. Go fuck yourself, you jerk. And then there's all this stuff about, masturbation, time for masturbation.
Oh, yeah. You saw that thing that I sent you, right? About how you are your own safest sex partner. And there's a big, cartoon of a dildo. And it's like, seriously? Really? Do we need this? No, we do not need this.
Next, they're gonna say, wash your hands really good before you touch yourself, because
Oh God. Yeah, it's really terrible. I mean, the problem is that you can't even make jokes anymore because they're all like true, and so like you think you're making a joke, and then you find out, oh wait, no, somebody actually said that.
It's exactly right. No, like I already say, like, fiction is over there in the corner bleeding and like bruised up and injured, and reality is like, just sit the fuck down. I'm in charge now.
Yeah, hold my beer.
Oh my beer. It's so scary. Well, here's what here's what I'm noticing. This is an old thing that I spoke about when I was in 6th grade. I was proud of myself. I used the term cognitive dissonance because the teacher said, come up with a really intellectual report, and I looked up Piaget's learning theory. I knew about that when I was in 6th grade, right? And so I said, oh, this is really cool. I know a big word, cognitive dissonance, and I was all impressed with myself. Okay. Of course, that's what's going on nowadays, and everybody's using that term. More and more people are waking up to that, and so. But I do think that people use it because they have this. They want to use a big word. But the fact of the matter is it's true. The thing about it is that, and I'm noticing it in my family, and so in case anybody doesn't know what cognitive dissonance is yet, even though it's been hammered pretty hard, it's like that when your own old, outdated bullshit belief system comes in, when somebody presents new information that conflicts with your deeply held beliefs, quote unquote. Generally speaking, your mind goes into a state of, well, they call it disequilibration, but think of it as unease, and disequilibrium would be the word. And then you seek to gain equilibrium again, and you usually do so by rejecting the new, more credible information and clinging to that old bullshit information that, comforted you, so.
Yeah, and what they've done is they're trying to encourage people to cut off any sources of new and truthful information by demonizing them, and coming up with, there was a New York Times thing that I tweeted out the other day, about an editorial from a guy who's saying, I decided that I was going to stop speaking to all of my loved ones who refused to donate to Black Lives Matter. And it's like, wait, what? You didn't even care about Black Lives Mattering a month ago. You were completely somewhere else, and now all of a sudden, this is your deepest conviction, and you're going to cut off everybody who isn't opening their wallet. It's ridiculous, and this is published in the New York Times. So they're really going full scale with this, and it's not like we haven't been prepared for this with all of the articles. Like even a couple years ago when Trump was first elected, and there were all these articles that came out saying, "Oh, I'm not inviting my Trump-loving relative to X holiday because I don't know. Like my political beliefs that I've had for 5 minutes are much more important than my relationship that I've had my entire life." I mean, obviously. Mm-hmm. But this is a very ongoing, constant thing, and there are all these PSAs talking about how, you have that crazy relative who's sharing stuff about how coronavirus isn't going to kill us all and came out of a Wuhan wet market and all this dumb crap. So if he's saying something that makes you think, stop talking to him.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
I've seen all this stuff about how to deal with that relative that's telling you something that's opposite from what we are. A lot of that, and people believe that stuff because one of the things that one of the things that we should talk about is that there is a growing awareness that Antifa is not just an organic movement of the people, that it's a paid hierarchical structure that's largely funded by this Jewish billionaire George Soros, who doesn't have the best interests of humankind in mind, and that is all true. It's very true. I don't care for Soros. I don't care generally for the activities of Antifa. But let me say this, that there is currently in the liberal class, or the democratic liberal end of the spectrum, there is currently no other direct action organization. So minus Antifa, everybody would be sitting on Facebook going, I'm angry and frustrated. So, you know, as much as we know that a lot of this is orchestrated, look, you know, somebody had to light the fire, and I'm our goal is to seize the initiative from Antifa and make it the people's revolution. How easy that's going to be, I don't know. But and here's a good point for everybody to understand, that most of the kids that are out in the street are not Antifa. They do not know anything about the inner workings of Antifa, and they don't have the same belief structures. And so they are still angry, and they are still out in the street. So in a way, Antifa did do an okay job, because you see police cars fucking burning. I love it.
Yep. Yeah. And that's what I meant about the fact that the signs are hand drawn and on cardboard boxes. That this is genuine. People are pissed off, and whether the frustration comes, I think a lot of the frustration comes from having been forced to spend the last 3 months cooped up in their homes while either being put out of a job or not being able to see their friends or see their families. This is organic rage. People are definitely pissed off, and yes, it's the liberal class fell down on the job by not having any sort of direct action, anything other than this Antifa. And so yeah, I agree that this definitely provided an outlet for something that was already there. This is not completely, it's not a total psyop that just they completely made up, and you can't get that many people out in the street unless people are pissed off. It's not like they don't have anything to be pissed off about. I mean, Jesus.
Mm-hmm. No. So it was the touchstone. It lit the fuse, and this simmering rage came through. But it was interesting the other night on Press TV. You had the LaRouche guy, who was like, "Oh, there's no violence in the street," and I was like, "What the hell? Come on, you know, I don't know." He must not have a Twitter account or something, because if you watch Facebook and TV, then you're gonna have that view that guy had. So.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, does he not leave his house ever? Because generally, if you encounter other people or if you have conversations with people, you know, maybe if you personally haven't experienced police abuses, though I think that a lot of people have had negative interactions with the police. It's a pretty common thing. Yeah. You would probably know somebody who has, and I mean, I know people who, like I was telling you the other night, somebody was living for years off a settlement from being beat up by the cops for no reason. Yeah. Just like people have negative interactions with these people.
Yeah, but generally, you know, over the years that I've looked at these LaRouche people, and I generally don't have too much of a problem with them. I mean, actually, you know, I always thought that LaRouche got unfairly treated, the guy, although he was kind of all over the spectrum, and you know, but ultimately it is a socialist, you know, it's a socialist big government solution that they propose. I mean, you know, I think the guy said something like 1.5 billion jobs, and it's like, you know, ultimately, yeah, you know, basically, how I would differ it is that, you know, I don't want all this government to be structuring anything. You know, the best thing is just get the fuck out of the way and let people, you know, generally do it. Have some minor protections of environment and of, you know, but other than that, we don't need this whole governmental structure. And of course, and I think that's what that guy was ultimately suggesting, was a Marshall Plan.
Yeah, the problem is that the government can't find its own ass with both hands, and if you've got it attracts the most incompetent people, because if you know you have guaranteed, it's very difficult once you have a person in a government job to get them out, and so the people who are necessarily attracted to that are the ones who suck at their jobs, and so when there's no any sort of competition or no sort of accountability, the government is not known for accountability, so that's the problem, is that unless that whole thing is overhauled and changed, and unless the personal characteristics that drive a person towards a career in politics, which is generally wanting to exert power over other people, until that's changed, then it's a difficult thing to deal with, because I mean, most people don't want to exert power over other people, and those unfortunately are the people who would make the best leaders.
And by the way, I was I don't know whatever happened because I know the other day it was like 2 days ago. Suddenly I start seeing this story about Lindsey Graham getting outed by all these gay escorts, and then I was like, okay, good, this is the end of Lindsey Graham. And then I said, well, wait a second, no, the media's going to come out with this, going to go, well, that's unfair. It's unfair to make fun of a man's sexual orientation. It's like, dude, when you're on the Senate Intelligence, when you're involved in the Defense Department and Senate Intelligence Committee or whatever it is, I think it's maybe the Rules Committee, the banking. I don't even know, but he
was the head of the Intelligence Committee. I don't think he is anymore. He's something else now, but or Foreign Affairs, something like that. It was a big one.
Right. Well, but that means you're bribable. I mean, obviously, you can't have a secret like that. You're paying for sex with gay prostitutes. If you do that, then anyone, China, Russia, the opposing party, some gay prostitute himself could say, look, dude, you're doing what I tell you, or else I'm going to blow the lid off your fucking, So nothing happened of that. That story disappeared. Disappeared. So I could have been limited to Hangout too. I was wondering if that's what that was.
That's possible. I mean, I was surprised that it didn't blow up because, for one thing, everybody's known it for a long time. It's pretty obvious. Like, and then the idea that he likes to be called Lady G.
Lady G.
Come on, Lady G. That's like clickbait and a half. How is that not everywhere? But it went away.
It went away. He's so repulsive. That guy is just the worst.
Yeah, never met a war he didn't like. Always, the answer to everything is more war here, war there. Well, which is why it's so ridiculous that
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous.
That the New York Times had a problem with that Tom Cotton op-ed because he called for sending the military into American cities. Okay, well, if he had called for sending the military into literally any other country, New York Times would have been, yeah, great, awesome. But if sending the military into American cities, maybe not so much. But it's just very telling that that's the one thing they have a problem with. Sending the military into any other place, a nursery school in Nicaragua, yeah, kill those kids, they're terrorists. It's really bad. I mean, so their hypocrisy is just over the top.
Well, and when you look at like the worst pieces of shit, like Tom Cotton is definitely one of the worst pieces of shit out there. It's always the Israeli connection. He's basically, when I talk about people who are spies for Israel, Tom Cotton is totally an agent of Tel Aviv, Israel intelligence. He got $4.5 million from them.
Wow.
Yeah, he got he got $1 million from straight up Israeli lobbyist groups. Then he got something like $4 million from the Koch brothers, which is basically those same interests. And then he got a bunch of Jewish connected businesses. So he's working for Israel basically. Of course.
Just like the rest of them. I mean, although if he's got that much money from them, he's probably more than the rest of them. But they're all. I mean, they have to write that loyalty oath if they get elected. So that's.
Yeah. I mean, he's one of the biggest receivers of money from his Jewish lobbies. He's one of the big ones. And the other thing that's pissing me off is, and that we definitely have to get. And I've spoken to you this, but by the way, the show that we did with Max, that's Nick's. He said the audio was no good. So basically, we'll cover on this show what we would have got. So basically, we have to try to find a way to get an information army of Twitter users and YouTubers and stuff like that to assist in this effort, because we can't do it ourselves. And one of the things that's important is to let people know about that this whole drug thing about the injections and the chips and all that stuff, that none of this is to help you, and it's very important. So the two cases, the hydroxychloroquine, which we've talked about, which is, by the way, the narrative is collapsing as every day goes on. So we've discussed that. And the other one is this Moderna pump and dump operation, which is the Moderna pharmaceutical. They found out that the major company stockholders, is the major, I guess the CEO that started selling his stocks a few days before he made this fraudulent announcement that he was nearing the solution and get a vaccine for this COVID. And then they find out that that was the company that was fast-tracked to stick this thing right in your children's arms. So here you got the WHO saying, Moderna, that's the one we want to fast-track. And then it turns out to be a Wall Street pump and dump operation for stock price, price kiting operation is all it was. Okay.
Yeah, and then the fact that the guy, the CEO of Trump's warp speed vaccine operation, was heavily invested in it, made $3 million in one day off of that pump and dump operation, when the results that they were announcing were nothing. It was not any results. All it was, they had an immune response. Well, that's the first step in even knowing you have a potential thing, is that's not a result. They were trumpeting it like it was a result. Democracy Now! Was trumpeting it like it was a result, which should discredit forever more Democracy Now! as if it wasn't discredited already. But that was really shameful, because I know that she's wrong about everything politically, but you would think that she would at least know not to be shilling for Big Pharma. But whoops, I guess she's shilling for that too nowadays.
No,
Amy Goodman, and there's never.
She will shill for anyone that's connected to her Jewish donors. All the money is coming from Jewish. Those are the ones who are writing the checks. So whatever. It's not anti-Semitic. Her money is coming from Jewish interests. That's it. Period. There's no question about it. If it wasn't a fucking truth, if it wasn't a fucking stereotype truth, then there would be some teeth to the idea that it's an anti-Semitic that I'm saying this. But since it's 100% true, then, you can't, you have to just be fucking quiet or fess up to it and say, yes, actually, I'm an Israeli intelligence asset, basically. But we were talking about the pump and dump thing before. And you see, I guess it's the willingness and the eagerness and the speed at which these privatized entities like WHO and CDC, which are private operations, they're not public. The CDC is largely privately funded, and the WHO is an instrument of Bill Gates. And yet this is supposedly the United Nations. It's not the United Nations. It's a private company. Look, think of it that way, as a private for-profit company.
Yeah, and mostly funded by pharmaceutical companies. I mean, it's Bill Gates is the number one funder now that the U.S. has pulled out. Is Bill Gates number one, and then there's a ton of pharmaceutical companies that are after that. The private contributors contribute more than the companies, well, the same thing basically. But so if you've got all these pharmaceutical companies contributing, and Bill Gates, whose money then goes right back into the pharmaceutical companies in which he's invested, he's made more as a quote unquote philanthropist than he has when he was running Microsoft. So any idea that he's doing good, doing good for his own wallet, I mean, all the money just goes right back into the companies that he's invested in. There's no philanthropy there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, back to the willingness of these totally corrupt organizations, the speed at which the WHO said, well, the Lancet study came out, and so that concludes it. Hydroxychloroquine is no good. And then you find out it was this fucking piece of shit guy from a company that had 4 people, and the guy was already it was already known that the guy who did that study was extremely one of the sketchiest figures. And then we're still trying to find out if he's a Jew, because of course, whenever you see a total piece of shit like that who's lying, so I'm trying to, and his Wikipedia, he doesn't have a Wikipedia page.
Oh yeah, they deleted it.
Okay, but
yeah.
A lot of these total pieces of shit are now high. You can't find out anymore if they're, what they are. And of course, because there's a reason for that, because they all are. That's the problem. But those speed and willingness. And then, of course, I look up Lancet, and Lancet, of course, is, what's that big organization that does all the trade shows and controls all the information?
Elsevier?
Elsevier, yeah, Elsevier, read Elsevier or Elsevier, and of course this is the most hated information organization because they took all this intellectual property that was free and it was open and it was in the
Put it behind a
public
paywall,
comments.
yeah.
And they put it behind a paywall, these scumbags. So
Yeah, so they're literally killing people by making this information not freely available everywhere, and so this is the idea that these people are somehow working for good. And yeah, I do think that this the Surgisphere and Surgisphere being the company that basically put out this fraudulent study on hydroxychloroquine was in league with the WHO because otherwise they wouldn't have acted so quickly. I mean, they would have had time to, evaluate or like anything. And all these countries that then just jumped on the thing, and France, which has been trying to get rid of hydroxychloroquine for a long time, and with Italy, and who was the other one? Germany, maybe. There was three countries that just jumped right on board with the let's get rid of hydroxychloroquine.
Well, that's because it's $4 for that treatment with a hydroxychloroquine, and with their one, the remdesivir, that's $4,500. So you see, oh, what a surprise! Yeah, fucking
And this is
scumbag.
what happens when you have for-profit medicine. It doesn't work. There is nobody gets healed from for-profit medicine. And U.S. has the most expensive healthcare system in the world, and yet our life expectancy has been declining for the past 10 years. So sorry, that's a dead giveaway right there. It's not working.
No. Well, so how do we get the information out that all these people are fucking scumbags, all of them, and how do you get this to Joe and Jane Sixpack and all these like soccer moms, because they're the ones who are the largest group that is still going along with it. How do we? Because we cannot do it ourselves. We'll put this video out and we'll get 5,000-6,000 at most views. Well, that ain't gonna do it, Helen.
Yeah, leafleting, this like roving, I'm calling it a traveling medicine show, but it's obviously not a traveling medicine show. But this idea of like a presentation that's set up in a gathering place in a town or in a city, and that people go and it's advertised by having like performances, and then there's political information there too. I like the idea of mixing entertainment with politics.
No, but hold on a second. We have this thing called the fucking internet, man. And
the internet is a little bit clamped down on by the people that we want to expose.
You mean the avenues to reach them are not available, like because they don't have Twitter, for example, because you might be able to reach them through Twitter, but they don't have it, right? So
yeah.
Okay, but it doesn't matter. They have things like email, and that every single person who's watching this has friends, and they can urge their friends to do their, like the bottom line is that it would be a lot easier if we could still use what's left of the internet, because it's possible, even though you have the Zuckerberg piece of shit, and even though you have all these Zionist pieces of shit that are literally shutting down information, it's Zionist scum that's doing all this, right? Even though you have all this Zionist scum destroying the internet, there is still a way to punch through these motherfuckers, right? Why can't we do that? Why is it so hard?
I don't know. People don't like to share information or something. I can't imagine why you wouldn't share a video like this, but people are afraid of offending people. I don't really know. I think that people should share information far and wide. I mean, that's what the internet was for. That's what it used to be for.
I think that's what it is, because we're mean to their Zionist overlords. But the thing about it is, it's like one thing I've proven is that when I talk openly about these subjects, people click like, but they won't share it. They won't retweet it, because the like is anonymous. The like is anonymous, and a retweet, you have to put you have to stand by it, and people are not prepared to do that. So they're feeling it on the inside, but they're too cowardly to actually
spiral of silence.
Spiral of silence, yeah. So. Well, then what's the answer? I mean, the only answer is that we're going to descend into a slave species, a species of slaves. Our slave master is going to be Jacob Rothschild, right? Hopefully, I mean, how long are these people going to live, by the way? I mean, these people have been around, I'm sure this...
They're pretty old. I mean, well, what's his name? Rockefeller finally kicked the bucket. Kissinger is still around. That's really disturbing.
I can't believe Kissinger. What the fuck are they infusing that guy? They must have a bunch of like 10-year-old children behind the wall there. And
I'm sure that there's just an assembly line of like orphans and like just fucking pump them in and
harvesting stem cells from the foreskins of orphans.
Something like that. There's like an assembly line. The babies pop out. They come in, put them in a rendering vat, and then there's just pump it into his veins.
They took the babies, they blend them up, put them in a big what do you call that? Spins.
A centrifugal.
A centrifuge. And then the stem cells, they separate it, and then they give it to Kissinger.
What's going on out there?
Oh, that's a protest.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. It's really scary, and I'm trying to wake people up, but it's not happening fast enough, and I'm worried, frankly.
Yeah, because once they've got this whole control grid in place, the rebellion will not be an option. I mean, right. I said this in the other video, but it's going to be something that just does not occur to people. And the idea of rebellion will be so foreign and so like alien that it just won't compute. It will go right in one eye and out the other, in one ear and out the other, whatever. It just won't. The brain will be immunized, quote unquote, against it.
Right. I think so. And I mean, there will be. I see it like breaking up into segments. So you'll have, and Huxley spoke about it. He said that it's roughly a 20-20-60 split. 20% of the people will go along with anything unquestionably. So like the Karens of the world will go along with whatever the official, and they'll go along with it all the time. They'll believe whatever they're told. They'll believe whatever Rachel Maddow says 100% of the time, 20% of the people. And then 20% of the people at the other end of the spectrum are very skeptical and will not believe. And then in the middle, there's this 60%, and it's this 60%, which is where that's the swing. So you have no hope on reaching the 20% at the far end of that spectrum that are just going to believe Rachel Maddow and The View, Joy Behar, Whoopi Goldberg, whatever they say, that is the truth. Okay, so those people are fucked. They're totally fucked. But it's the 60%, but the thing about it is that all a demagogue needs is to get 20%, that 20%. And then they take the whole package. They take everybody. They take the 100%. That's the problem. So
the thing is, they have so many more megaphones than we do that it's an uphill battle to try to get people to even notice, because the ideas are very appealing. I mean, I don't think that anybody wants to be a slave species if you put it to them so starkly, but nobody does, and everybody is so careful of like not treading on the wrong toes that by the time they've finally gotten their point out, it's been so neutered and so like diffused that it doesn't have the appeal that it would otherwise.
Right, and also it would be one thing if we could say, okay, look, you 20% over there, good riddance to you. Enjoy your servitude, enjoy your sheepdom, your slavery. That's fine. Us 20% that are aware and awake and alive and have a little bit of human dignity, or quite a lot of human dignity, we'll just do our thing. You guys do your slave thing, and that's fine. That's not how it works. Unfortunately, the slaves take us all with them, and we all become slaves. That's the problem. So, yeah, because I would be happy to say, fuck off, man, get out of here, you idiots, right? But
no, they don't want anybody setting an example of freedom that their own their little farm, their human farm will be tempted to follow.
Yeah, it is literally 1984.
We have always been at war with East Asia.
Sure, and we're like the future Winston Smiths here. It's crazy. Well, you want to wrap it up and see what happens with this thing?
So,
yeah,
that should be enough information for people to process for one video.
Yeah, we'll come back and we'll do another one, and then we can do some short ones too if the idea strikes. But this will be a test and see how this goes.
Cool.
Okay.
All right. Stop recording.